Razan. Let's see. Let's get the team up here. Razan. Hi, guys. Good to see you over here. Hey, Anne. Hi, Nicole. So fun to have everyone. So while people are coming in, I'm going to toss another that came in during the main stage presentation. Tammy wants to know what happens to other animals in the landscape if the Samburu lions disappear.
Okay,
Shiv? Giovanni?
A keystone species important for maintaining balance within a landscape. If lions disappeared, so much would disappear. We use lions as a flagship species, but through our community conservation efforts, pretty much all the large carnivores are being protected. So we use lions as that umbrella because they are that umbrella. It's so important to protect them because you protect them, everything else is protected. If we lose lions here, there'll be such an imbalance within this ecosystem. There will be, just more of something else and less of something else. So by keeping lions alive, you're keeping everything alive and you're keeping the balance of this whole amazing ecosystem intact.
Great. I'm going to bring Molly up here, who has a question for you.
Oh, hey.
Hi, Molly.
Hi. I was curious to hear a couple things about water. Like one is, what's happening with rainfall, how are the grasslands in terms of health, and then also years ago there was talk of a dam by the government, and I wondered if there's any update on that. Thanks.
Thanks, Molly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Molly.
And hi, Molly.
Hi, Kelly.
Would Generia like to comment or should I go for it?
I think let Generia do the rain, and then we go for it.
Yes, surely the climate change is really realistic in this northern Kenya now, and it's just about 3 years now that the community also realizing about the changes, and so from then, they are really adapting how they are moving up and down with their livestock, and yet there are so many projects as helping like that of our county, but we're really trying to bring all those people together so that it doesn't affect both wildlife and also the community, because in some areas they put the dam. Some people like just putting down in such a very critical area, and that really led into a conflict situation with the community. So that is one thing that we're really being very careful and really working with our county government as well. So where to really put those dams and water dams, so they doesn't affect a lot of the movement of community, and not also settle the community into one place. So because we are pastoral.
Yeah.
I'm going to invite Marcus up as well. Here, go ahead and answer, Razan.
Yeah, not to throw Sarah into the deep end, but our landscape infrastructure advisor, Sarah Childs, is actually here and she's in the chat. And he has really been instrumental in forming relationships with a lot of these big infrastructure developers. So, the data and the information that has been able to influence project. So if you have questions, please just put them in the chat and Sarah can feel free to answer them.
Great. Another great question from the chat was, what's the status of the road and power projects? I see Sarah Childs here in the chat as well. So, hey, Sarah. As many of you know, there are huge landscape infrastructure projects going on in northern Kenya. So just wondering what's the update on that.
Razan, go for it.
I want to go for it, but I want Sarah, would you like to come up onto the chat so you can answer this question yourself, because you're here.
That's great, yeah.
I don't see her requesting permission to come on up.
Okay, she said happy to answer some questions, but so COVID has slowed down a lot of these projects in some way. We'll just give a quick summary of what we have been working on and what we've been working on together with the Global Zebra Trust. The project has also slowed down because a lot of money has gone into COVID and COVID relief. So which really has been very good for us, because it's enabled us to continue to build these relationships through this time. And Sarah's been, virtually meeting a lot of these different stakeholders, up until even talking to the financiers of these projects, which I think is very important, because it's great to talk to the developers, but moving a step forward to actually speak to the financiers has helped us a lot in forging relationships and making sure that wildlife, livestock, and people's needs are considered, because this landscape is critical for all of us.
Great. I'm going to bring Dawn and Carol up who have a question. So let's wait while they're popping up. Just a second.
Hey, there
There he is.
There he is. Hey, Dawn.
I had the right shirt on, Giovanni, today. She was mad at me.
You do.
Shawnee, I was wondering, did it's been a while, but there was paperwork you were working on to get the permanent kids camp location through the government. Did that ever finish up?
We got very close to getting a site for a permanent Lion Kids Camp base, but with all the changes over the last couple of years, it has been delayed. We're still very positive about it, but now obviously COVID has really delayed things. So that's one of our programs that's currently on hold. We've managed to keep going with everything else except our Lion Kids camps. And as soon as things settle down here, and it's looking good, I think, I think we will get back on track with securing that land for the kids camp base. So yeah, hopefully soon. But that was definitely one project that was delayed this year.
Great.
And Don is right here.
Hi.
Hi. We've had quite a few questions in the chat about compensation for lion predator killing, that kind of thing. Can maybe Generia, can you speak to that, or whoever might be best?
Yeah, sure. In my own community, that we really don't really believe on compensation, because it's not very much its sustainability. If the money fails, like in other areas of the part of Kenya, they really tried to put into money to compensation. But once the money is not sustainable, once the money is not there, and then it leads to really damaging wildlife conservation, especially lions. And then you'll find that people are not even believing that there's no money, that saying that you are not giving us money, yet our livestock is being killed, and then that lend people to go after the lions a lot, and they poisoning, all that. So we are really maintaining our culture. We have been pastoralist, so we don't want to put into money perspective, because money into mind. Then they follow the land because they follow an elephant because of money. So it is that way of live and believe, because we are protectionists over centuries. So this is what to maintain and not into people's mind, because we have a lot of belief. We have a lot of in between us as people.
Great, Generia. That's really great. Mary, brought Mary up for a question. Mary, did you have a question?
I have a question. As opposed, and historically, is there ever area lions used to be in? So, lions high enough, would they pride?
So, Mary, thanks for the question. A long time ago, I mean, historically, definitely there were prides here. And even when we started working here back in 2002, there were actually small prides. So, just as recent as 2002, we had small prides, not huge ones, definitely not like those spoilt lions in the Masai Mara, where you have like 30, 40 lions together, not like them, but we did have small prides of lions. And gradually over time, as things became more challenging for lions. And as lions struggled to find enough food, as they struggled to find enough space, they gradually became more solitary in nature. And it's something we've seen over time. And it's quite interesting that now we see mainly solitary lions. And you'd expect maybe they don't do so well. You know, they're known as a social cat. So how are they surviving here? They survive remarkably well alone. And we have some incredible lionesses. You heard from Jennery about Naramat. We have Naramat, we used to have Magalani, we have Nanai now who's become solitary. And they raise their cubs alone. They hunt by themselves. They don't need the support of other females. And I remember Magilani, she was amazing. Back in 2009, when Jennery and I were driving around here, and it took us almost 2 years to find her, when she had cubs, which we didn't even know how she did, she found a male somewhere. When she came back with those cubs, she taught them how to hunt when they were only 3 months old. And we don't really see that with big prides. I mean, with big prides, you know, cubs are hunting when they're 1 year, 1.5, almost 2. These 3-month-old little cubs were killing dik-diks. So this solitary nature is absolutely just extraordinary to watch. And they are real survivors. They've just adapted how to survive this way. We've seen it all the way up here, you know, in northern Kenya. Solitary lions are also being found in Namibia now, but south of us, so not that far away, in Lewa Conservancy, in Laikipia, all the private ranches, you do get more larger prides. So it's not that far away, but the landscapes are very different. I mean, Lewa literally in a straight line is just over the hills, and Laikipia is over these other hills just in front. So it's not far, but there's such different landscapes, and lions just adapt to wherever they are, and they just figure out, is it better to be in a pride? Is it better to be solitary? But for us here in this very challenging landscape for lions, they've adapted to being solitary.
Great. Another question while I bring up Jim. Are you working on creating corridors and habitat linkages for lions to move between the larger blocks?
Razan, do you want to go?
Yes, we definitely are. It's been a project that, you know, we felt has been extremely important to us. You know, in Giovanni's PhD, she talked about habitat suitability modeling, which was really about finding out where lions like to live, and then working out in the landscape, overlaying that with settlement and other things to make sure that we're able to have enough habitat for lions to move through. And then you can stitch all that up and create corridors. So that's really been a labor of all of us for a long time, working with communities to secure that. That's really been effective. And that has also allowed us to secure partnerships with all sorts of people across the different conservancies. We work with 9 different conservancies. And our collaring as well is critical to help with that information. So we've collared several lions over the years, especially those that are dispersing males that go quite far away, and they really have unlocked very critical corridors that have helped us make lots of friends, both in the community and with other organizations.
Great. Welcome, Talash. Did I say that correct?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hi. Question for the Ewaso team?
Yes, I did have a question. Hello, everyone. Just also so you know, Razan has some family support. What happened with the locusts? I think that we were very concerned about that even before Corona hit. But were you able to bring the locusts under control? And what's the situation looking like in terms of food security?
I'll add to that. There are a lot of people asking about food security. So if you could touch on that, be great. Thank you so much, Talash.
Great. Okay, so I'll start, and then the team that were actually there will answer that. So, of course, the locusts, and you saw from the videos that was an apocalyptic moment for all of us in Samburu when they hit us on the 10th of January this year, but also across the country and across the Horn of Africa, the locusts have spread. So, you know, in Kenya alone, locusts went through 21 out of the 47 counties, and ate as they went. I think perhaps the lucky thing about the locusts this year is that through 2019 and 2020 have been some of our wettest years. So as much as the locusts did consume a lot, we have found that there has been a lot of grass regrowth. And even though they did eat a lot as they went, we've had some grass back, and that's helped, it's helped it not affect us as much in the pastoral areas. Several partners have been working on the issues around pesticide use, and I think there are people who we can direct you to talk about that, which of course also affects food quality and food security across here. But in general, yes, an apocalyptic event, and yes, the locusts are slated to be with us for the next now 18 months. But we at least we have had some reprieve in some way. Perhaps Giovanni, if you'd like to continue, and Generia and the whole team as we went through this.
There's much to add, except they were a huge nightmare. We absolutely, our lives changed on January 10th, and we'd just come out of heavy flooding, and then suddenly we were standing just back here, and it was sunset, and the locusts were coming towards us, and we were quite amazed. We were like, wow, this is, something unusual. But that feeling of amazement changed to horror within 2 minutes as we tried to stop them from landing here in camp. So I think the only thing I really want to add is I'm just so glad they're gone. I don't know, as Razan said, they might not be gone for too long. The whole pesticide control was not easy at all. But, working together and communicating with all the partners, the Gravy Zebra Trust and everyone around here was sort of able to keep on top of it. Not a great start to the year. And obviously straight after that, I mean, the locusts, I think, left in April, and then we had COVID. So it's been a challenging year, as you heard from the team.
Well, I mean, just for those kids.
Great. Sophie. Hi, Barbara. Did you guys want to ask a question? They look a little stunned. We'll move on. Somebody asked, this is an interesting one, about livestock guarding dogs working for lions. Is that a thing?
Actually, it is a thing in some places. I mean, our great friend Amy Dickman in Ruaha uses livestock guarding dogs. Here, what we're trying to do is work with the domestic dogs. So through Kura's Pride, rather than new dogs from somewhere else, a different breed, we want to work with the local breed, the village dogs. And I saw a question earlier about predator-proof bomas. Most of our conflict actually isn't in bomas. It takes place during the day when livestock are out, and sometimes they get lost. And having dogs with the herd is so important. And so working with domestic dogs to improve their welfare makes them more alert. And if they can be more alert, they can alert the herder to the presence of a carnivore, and that hopefully will reduce conflict. So although we don't work with livestock guarding dogs, that are brought in from overseas, our hope through the Kura's Pride program is work with domestic dogs, improve their welfare, and get them out so they're not running around chasing squirrels and dik-diks, but they're actually with the livestock, keeping an eye on things with their herder. So yeah, it's a great question, but there are some amazing programs who do work with livestock guarding dogs.
Great. We've also had a couple of questions about comments about the post-colonial future for Africa and for conservation. Razan, I know this is really close to your heart. Do you want to touch on that?
Yes, we've had a lot of different conversations about what we want conservation to look like. And I'm so proud of a team that I look at, and I think this is part of the post-colonial future right here, that this is about local people working in their homes to secure nature and to secure their value for nature in the way that they want to do it. We've had big conversations about tourism and how sometimes that is actually a colonizing agent, where we, instead of decoupling conservation from tourism, we're marrying it, and they're kind of dragging each other down. And the reason why this is about colonialism is because it's basically tried to put wildlife in one place, and the only people who are allowed to access that wildlife are people who go to see that wildlife within those parks and reserves, as opposed to wildlife that live with us, the way our team and the way things work in our landscapes. Of course, there are also big conversations about race and privilege and moving forward from there. And I think our vision, and I share this vision with I'd say about 30 other women from 14 different African countries that I talk to every single day, about how we can have better working environments where race is no longer an issue that we have to deal with, or racial microaggressions are not issues that we have to deal with every day. And that comes from starting to speak about them, calling them out, but really having kind conversations about them, because very often people don't really know that they are exacting things upon others. And it's important for people to open up and to be heard. And I think I saw a question in the chat about if this is going on across, are we forming partnerships? We are absolutely forming partnerships across the continent to deal with this issue, to speak about that very boldly. And I think what do we see in the post-colonial future is maybe I would love to redefine the word conservation itself, because it has this connotation of something that is very little, something that only a few people should go and protect. And really, conservation is supposed to be for all of us. And it's supposed to be about our values, our memories, and how we want the world to be, as opposed to how others want the world to be. And I think if Giovanni was here, she'd talk a lot about the one face model and the fact that we also want that to change. We want people to see a variety of faces and people who are working on conservation, not just a one hero to look up to. So that's also the hope for the post-colonial future.
We definitely see that in Ewaso Lions, and that it's all of you and it's the team, and it takes all of your faces to get the work done. Somebody asked about how many lions are up in the Samburu area, and somehow it looks like we lost Giovanni. I know that there was rain coming in northern Kenya, which we always are excited about, except when it messes with our Giovanni on screen during an expo time. So we'll be hoping that it's raining there and that's why we've lost them. But Razan, can you talk about the number of lions and what a sustainable population looks like up there?
Yeah, so when our project started in 2007, as Giovanni explained in the presentation, there were very few lions. And in fact, when they began together, Generia, Francis, and Jeremiah and Giovanni, they actually only found 11 lions, and they were all confined to national parks and reserves. They were never out in the community, because at that time, the relationship between lions and people had broken down. So as soon as lions would leave the park, they would be killed, or they would have to run straight back in again. But we've worked with people to make sure that this is a home. It returns to being a home for both lions and people. And our population now numbers about 50. So it's more than threefold in these years that we've worked. And in terms of what a stable population is going to be, this is another question about the decolonized conservation space. We're not just looking for exponential growth, we're looking for what can be sustained both by the ecology, by the habitat, and also by the people who live there. So it's that is the balance. But at the moment, our population has been stable for the past 8 years now.
That's great. What we asked for. Oh, looks like Giovanni's coming back. Hi, Deb. We've got Deb up on screen as well.
You came back to see
Deb,
me?
we can see you. Deb, did you have a question for the team?
I do. I mean, Razan, what you were saying about, letting the people do it, I mean, and addressing a lot of the issues. How about population control? I mean, Kenya's population has exploded, from 2009, 30-something million to now 50-something million. I'm just curious if you're concerned about that, or
I'm going to go for it. Shivani, is it okay? Hi there, first of
Go
all.
for it.
Giovanni, will you mute your mic while Razan's? Go for it, Razan.
So in terms of population, so this has almost always been a question, and it's a very big question across Africa, and there's a lot of doom, I think, and a lot of these words around control of people. And really, I think we're looking at it in very different ways. One is, as much as Africa's population is growing, Africa's population density has been nowhere near a lot of the world's population density. I always compare Kenya's population density of about 78 people per square kilometer to the UK's population density of England's population density of over 400 people per square kilometer. So even though we are growing, I think nuances really need to be put into perspective. That's one. And second, I think it's also a question about consuming and consumerism versus population. So I think about a one child that I would have in Nairobi, in the city, versus a one child somebody has in Samburu, or 5 children that somebody has in Samburu. My child will consume probably 10 times more than a child than children in Samburu will. So instead of thinking about it about population control and population growth around Africa, which also has its own colonial and connotations there, it's really about what we want the world to be. I need to work out how to reduce the consumption of my child before I tell somebody to have less, stop having children altogether. But we do work with organizations that are concerned about this, also from a social perspective and from the environmental perspective. An organization like Communities Health Africa Trust that you saw we partnered with earlier this year, really work on issues around child spacing, so that people have choice, people have time. You don't have to have a child every year. You can have a child 1 year and then another one in 4 years, and that gives you space to plan your family and your life. And all of those things are working to keep the environment, to be the environment that we want to see, I think.
Great. Hi, Singer.
Hi.
Welcome. I understand you have a question about tourism.
Well, I do, but first I just want to say something. I have found this to be, without a doubt, the most interesting of any of the programs that we've done. I think getting into the whole conservation, racism, population, all of this is absolutely spectacular. And Razan, I just commend you in so many ways. And I think the whole thing with the COVID, with the way in which you've handled that, with everything, it is just a stunning presentation. And I thank you. Yes, so that was my question about the tourism thing, of where of the funds that tourism generates and what you talked about. But how do you rectify all this? How do I rectify, say, bringing 8 people every year to raise money? How do you bring all this together with privilege, with all of the things that we've been discussing? How do
Giovanni,
we
I feel like I've said too much. I think you guys.
I think that's a great one for you, Razan. Go for it.
So I think that the things that you do, Singer, really do reinforce how we are already rectifying this situation. That tourism is not just about going to see. You've never done that. In every single one of your trips, the tourism, the work that you've done is actual work to bring people to see the work that's being done on the ground, and then supporting that work to support the the environment, the landscapes that we work in, the people that we work with, and the wildlife that we work with. That is tourism that is extremely important and extremely the right sort of work that should be happening. I was speaking to a friend earlier today who said that, he thought that conservation is just like once a year he goes to a park and pays $3 to go and see wildlife, and that's his conservation. And I said, no, that's not conservation. That's just tourism. Conservation is about taking that interest. So if we can have that discussion about coupling the right sort of tourism with conservation, that is conservation that works. That's conservation that is self-aware, that is not looking to just do privileged things for fun. It's actually work that is sustainable, and it's the kind of tourism that should be encouraged. I hope. Giovanni, would you like to add? Team, would you like to add? Team, I need help.
I mean, agreement, saying, I mean, when you bring a group here, you're so invested in what we do. I mean, you've spent time with our Mama Simba ladies. Everyone is invested in what we do, and we appreciate that so much, because it's us doing it together. We don't feel like we're doing it alone. We don't feel like, there's tourism separate from us. When you come with your groups, when John and Carol come, when everyone comes to visit us, it's like this. There's no divide, and there's no sort of tourism and conservation. It's all as one, and we feel as this strong community. So, I think, as Razan said, I think it's something we all appreciate so much when it's done right, which so many of you do in such a spectacular way. It helps us tremendously.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Giovanni. Well, I think we're out of time for our session here. Any final thoughts from the team before we go?
I think we'll all say something. I'll just say something quickly. Thank you guys all so much for being part of us today. We're here in our camp. We've been freaking out about the rain for the last 3 hours, which I don't think anyone knows, but we've been ready to leg it into one of the tents. So thank you, Rain, for holding off for an hour. Thank you all for all your amazing questions. It's been truly special to be with you guys. Daniela?
Yeah, I just want to really say thank you so much. We couldn't do all this without you. And thank you, WCN, for this new experience. We keep we are all wondering, what are we doing? This is really cool for us. So, it's a good thing. It's good to learn many other new things. And thank you so much for all our supporters for being with us on this long journey. So thank you so much.
It's been so special. I would like to say that I think our annual report is somewhere in the chat. So if you would like to take a look at all our programs and the things that we do, please do that. Please come to our website. And we also have if you are interested to support us, we do have a funding needs document there as well. We're so glad that you came to see us, that 124 people here still, 25. Thank you so much for coming to see us. We feel like you are part of us. Ashe Oleng, Ashe Oleng.
Ashe Oleng to the whole entire team. So for those of you still watching, in about 10 minutes, we've got Jane Goodall on the blue stage. So that is what's up next. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for participating with Ewaso Lions, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.